Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Definitely Gospel Centered. I am your host, Gaby Duke, and here we have real talk, real deep conversations in American Sign Language. And I'm so excited to introduce these fun guests to you guys today. We have a couple with us. We have Zachary with a sign name as a Z. And then we have Courtney with her sign name on the eyes here.
Hey
so
there.
Excited to have you both here with us. You guys have an amazing Instagram account and YouTube channel. And I just want to encourage everyone to give those a watch. It's just so fun to see how you guys do life and raise your daughter, not son, with sign language and spoken English at the same time. It's just so exciting to watch. And just so excited to have you guys here on the podcast today. And today our topic is on dating well. But first, I want to know a little bit backstory of how you guys met.
Who wants to go first? Okay, but it's a really long story, but I will condense it and try to make it brief. So at the time, I was a senior in high school. I was about to graduate and go into college. And I took 2 years of ASL in high school, but I was not fluent in sign language. I remember he came to our church in Long Beach, California, and he lived 1 hour north. So he came to visit, and the reason being, he liked another girl at that time.
I was chasing this other girl at the time.
So I remember my friend said that there's a deaf person at church and that I needed to go introduce myself. But I was too embarrassed because I didn't know enough sign. My friend really pushed me to go. So I was in a wheelchair at the time. So I made my way over to him and introduced myself. I said my name was Courtney, and I was really struggling to spell my name correctly in sign language.
It was pretty awkward, I'd say. It's like, hi, name, and then it was finger spelled, and then we just kind of like looked at each other, and I was like,
I just didn't know what else to say. It was very awkward.
I was like, oh, it's nice to meet you, and then I left.
So I went back to my friend, and I said, why'd you make me do that? It was so embarrassing and awkward. I don't know enough sign language. So fast forward in time, I graduated high school, and then I decided to study more sign language. We met again a month or two later. I was a little more fluent in sign, but I was still struggling. But I had improved. And I remember he asked me on a date. But I didn't know.
I said, hey, do you want to go on a date?
I
said, come on, let's go on a date.
I didn't understand what he was trying to say.
And I finger spelled the word D-A-T-E, date.
I still didn't understand. I was so nervous.
She just wasn't understanding it. And then I
so
typed it out and I showed it to her.
And
she was like, yeah, sure.
Yes. And that was like June or July.
Yeah, it was back in June.
And then August, we went on our first date and we fell in love. Well, I wouldn't say we fell in love, but I knew he was different.
That's so cool. So, you had graduated high school and moved.
I was still living in Long Beach at that time.
Okay.
I lived there for 1 year while we were dating.
Yeah, it was a year.
And then I moved here and transferred schools.
Okay. Well, that's great. So then, when you guys met, were you already believers, or did that happen later?
Really, we actually grew up in the church. We grew up in Christian families. So I'd say we really already had a lot of exposure in regards to the Bible, what godly lives look like. I know specifically for me, I grew up in a family, actually, where we were involved in church. But I never really got into it. I was more involved into some of those darker things in a way. I just felt empty, really. So I decided to take some time to do some Bible studies, and that's when I realized that the Bible was the truth. And so I was led by the Lord, and I was baptized by the age of 16. And I've been discipled since then. I've had those ups and downs like everybody, I feel like. But
yeah, my story is very similar growing up. I grew up in a Christian family, and I remember, I think in 8th grade, I started to study the Bible for myself, study scripture, and I always knew that the Bible was truth. I had no doubt that God was real. The proof and evidence was there. It was very clear to me. But the struggle that I had was with my flesh. I really questioned if I wanted to really make those sacrifices and give up my own desires in my life to pursue the Lord. And I was young at the time, so it felt very restricted.
You don't feel like you fit in with the worldly way, so there's like a disconnect there.
But I continued to study and learn and read scripture, and that caused my heart to soften, and I fell in love with God. And I realized that those were not restrictions or limitations, that he doesn't withhold good things, that he is the giver of good things. So my freshman year in high school, I was 14, I decided to get baptized and decided that Jesus was my Lord at 14. But that's still very young, and I realized that was just the beginning of my journey. I know that there was a lot of ebbs and flows to that journey, and I was still trying to figure out who I was in my faith and how to connect with people but not give in to sin. That was a tough thing for me, but that was the beginning of my journey, and I felt like I've been the closest to God during the hard times.
Mm-hmm.
And that really grew my faith and developed my convictions. So life was not perfect when I was 14. It was very messy going forward, but God still uses the mess to glorify him. So
yes, amen to that. So curious then, I know oftentimes, at least for women, we have a list of what we want in a future husband, right? Do men have that same list? I'm not sure if they do. But anyway, to my question, before you guys got married, did you think about what you wanted, what that list kind of looks like for you? Like Zachary, did you have, a woman who needed to be deaf or had to be at least hard of hearing or no sign language or was saved? Like, what did that look like?
I'd say, obviously, one of the most important things is really someone who has fallen in love with the Lord, who really wants to be with the Lord. Totally, regardless of the situations of their life, Jesus is their priority, is their number one. Deaf hearing really didn't matter to me. The important thing was communication, that they could sign.
And I didn't sign very well. He was very patient.
She picked it up really, really well. I look at that, it's like, oh, it's fine. She picked it up really, really well. I think humor is something that was really good. But she was very hyper, and so that to me was something that was very attractive. So those were the three main things for me.
Did you ever write a list, or was it more of a mental list?
No, it was just something that I had thought about mentally.
Okay, yeah, women are different. We write it down. We get a pen and paper and write out that list. The top of the paper said, for me, that I wanted a man like King David. I know no one's perfect, and all men will struggle. But the one thing about David, that he never gave up. He continued to pursue God and was honest. And so that was the top priority for me on my list. Someone who was willing to fight through those things. And I even had columns. I had one for appearance. I'm just being honest. I had a column for spiritual things, like honesty, commitment, family. I wanted a family man. I had a list. And then the next column was like a fun personality, liked to go out, snowboard, liked sports, wanted to get together with family, liked games, camping. But I always listed the most important on the top to the least important at the bottom. I ranked it. But my top priority was that someone who was like King David, who was very persistent and didn't give up and was very patient. I don't remember if we told you that story about our mom on our first date. I didn't know a lot of side, but he told me a lot about who he was. But at the time, he told me that his mom had leukemia. And she had just had a bone marrow transplant. And he was telling me at that time, it was a very difficult time in his life. The doctors had told him that maybe she had about 3 months left to live.
Yeah, really close to death.
And I remember his comment about that. He said that he was praying a lot. And that he told God that if God decided to take his mom to heaven, then he would trust God's timing in that.
Wow.
Like, what? I'm the opposite. I'd be telling God, don't take my mom. I would be very upset and angry.
Yeah,
and not
I
wanting
get
to
that.
give my mom up. So I was very impressed. Even now I get teary-eyed thinking about it. It's just amazing, his faith. And just his reliance on the Lord, on God. That's the one thing that I admire about him.
Well, during that time, it was a really tough time for me as well. But scripture in Jeremiah chapter 29, verse 11, it says that God has a good plan for you, and it's not a plan to harm you. So that was something that I really just remembered often to actually get me through. And fortunately enough, my mother is actually still alive.
It's amazing. 9 years.
She's been in remission for, 9 years? So she has her more normal life. She drives herself to work. She socializes. Like, it really was like a miracle.
I think many people tend to give up on God. If things don't happen their way, and it happens a different way than they like. And yes, we have struggles, but some people, but we have to, Zachary refuses to give up on God and doesn't blame him. It's really amazing.
That's so good to hear. No, it's tough not to blame God sometimes with, different struggles, but, just to encourage people in the faith, you have to hold on and trust in the Lord, because the Lord is sovereign over whatever happens, and he is so good to us. But during your dating experience, what do you guys think was your biggest challenge that you faced?
I think a big one was communication, because I still didn't know a whole lot of sign language. There's a lot of misunderstandings, a lot of miscommunications, and so then that led to frustration, and I felt like I wasn't good enough or a good enough signer. He kept saying I was fine, but he was so patient with me. And then I think the other thing was trying to stay pure in purity with God. That's hard, especially when you fall in love with someone and deciding to be pure before marriage, not to have sex before marriage, and then you fall in love with someone. That's normal to have that desire. So we were trying to set boundaries. It was really tough. Do you want to expand more on that?
Well, as we were a young couple, we were just, as you would say, obsessed with one another. So it was really easy to forget sometimes about the Lord in those situations, and you would sometimes neglect reading your word or neglect prayer. You could focus more on texting each other, hanging out, just spending time and trying to communicate with one another. So trying to spend the time looking at, for one actual example, my friend actually gave me a template of like this triangle. And so as we're trying to focus on the Lord, that we would actually come together and the Lord would really bless our relationship. And that was something that was pretty impactful to me. But that was one of the challenges of our relationship.
I think it's very easy to obsess about a boyfriend or a girlfriend. That's normal. But he's not God. Zach is not God. God is my God. And so how I can shift my focus onto God and not Zach. I know sometimes I could have a lot of worries, like what if the relationship didn't work out? I could worry a lot. But I remember God's plan is perfect. And if the relationship didn't work out, then God had a better plan. But if it worked out, then that meant that was God's best for me. So that was really hard. And it helped to have people involved in our lives as well to support us and encourage us to continue to stay positive and tell us that we could do this. And we did struggle with purity, but we didn't keep that to ourselves. We had couples that we confessed to and got advice, counsel from them, and held us accountable.
I love that. Yes, that's awesome. So with that in mind, Zach, what does it look like for you, or what did it look like for you to lead Courtney
Looking back,
through
actually,
dating?
and how I kind of led our relationship. Sometimes I would take her out on like a prayer walk where we would spend time walking and praying together. We would read scriptures together. We would discuss about what we learned really from one of the lessons plans that we were on a Wednesday night church service, or some of the things that we learned on our Sunday morning services, and how it was applicable to our lives at that time. We would spend time asking our married couple friends for help whenever we came through conflicts or strife or anything like that. We would text them and say, hey, is it possible for the time for the four of us to get together to kind of lean on you guys for some advice to help resolve some of the issues that we have? I would say that was really important.
I think another thing is that Zach did is he would set up a good example. I liked a lot of guys before I liked him. And so, but all those other guys, they would text me a lot, and it felt good. It was exciting that these boys are giving me this attention and texting me. But I felt like Zach was really good about balancing. Sometimes I'd get mad at him. I'd want his attention.
I remember that.
And I'd be texting him multiple times and he wouldn't respond. But he had boundaries. So we weren't talking 24/7. And I could tell that his actions were different. I remember that he would always share about what he was learning. He would set a good example and what to do with our faith and being a light in his job and school. I was very impressed with that. If I was struggling, it'd be really easy for him to comfort me, but he would remind me to go to God and pray. And then I'd come back to him and we'd discuss it more. So that really helped me a lot.
That's great. I love how, Zach, how you said about reaching out to a married couple. Like if you had something conflicting you couldn't agree on, and that's going to happen in marriage often. Yeah, of course it will. So it's good that you had people you could trust to help you just through the process, right? And how to come to a resolution of whatever conflict you face. I think that's amazing.
Even still, we have that, and it still helps us a lot.
Is it the same
those
couple?
Couples that are in our lives, I mean, they've known a lot what we've gone through.
That's awesome. Really, it really is, guys. So, Courtney, your family, how do they love Zach well? Because your family is fully hearing,
my whole
right?
family's hearing. So, a funny story. I remember... So I'm sorry, your phone's vibrating. It's distracting me. Sorry. I'm getting distracted by his phone. Hold on. Okay, so really funny story. I remember when I first started to take ASL classes in high school. I hadn't met Zach at the time. I hadn't met him yet. And my dad encouraged me to take Spanish. He said that there aren't many deaf people and that wouldn't really benefit me. He said that I should be doing something that would be more beneficial. That would be something like Spanish, because a lot of people who know, or a lot of people in California who know Spanish. And so my dad was really trying to push me to not take ASL. But I went ahead and did it. And then I met Zach. And my parents, they had no negative comments about it. They weren't like, oh, he's deaf. No, they completely supported it from the beginning. And the proof was when my mom, when I first told her that I liked a guy that was deaf, she started taking ASL classes, college ASL classes.
Yeah, her sister too.
My sister as well.
Oh my gosh.
And that was before we even started
sweet.
dating. My mom already saw that my heart was in this. And she wanted to communicate with him. My dad was busy with work. He would still practice with my mom, but he didn't take ASL classes.
Mm.
And so when we became official boyfriend, girlfriend, then my dad realized it was serious. And so he started to learn. And my parents, they still... so my mom was taking ASL 2 classes when my dad joined. I think she was taking ASL 1 and 2 at the time, and then my dad joined the class.
Mm-hmm.
So they started to sign very little. They weren't fluent.
It's still very thankful for it.
Yes. That was just one very impressive thing that they did, that my family did.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And most families that have deaf kids don't even learn. So I thought it was really amazing that my family was learning sign language for my boyfriend.
Mm-hmm.
So then I remember we got engaged, and at the wedding, my dad, he had a list of signs that he was practicing. So when he walked me down the aisle at the wedding, before my dad lifted my veil, he signed. And I don't remember exactly what he signed, but he signed giving me to Zach, and he practiced that a lot. I just felt that showed that he loved him very well.
I always felt like the moment I felt her family, the moment I met them, I felt very welcomed. I didn't feel like they looked down upon me or looked at me differently because I was deaf. I was very welcomed, and they were very willing to how we could actually communicate with one another. So being very involved in her family was more immediate.
I also have a brother, but he has 3 boys, and he works full time, so he just never really had the chance to learn sign language. But now he's good with making sure that Zach's included in conversation, asking him questions, and having conversations.
Yeah, he's always saying, I love you. He always signs. He knows the sign for I love you.
That sign.
And so that just shows that he just really loves me.
Yeah, that's great. So...
Oh, yeah, it's really funny.
Courtney, then... Oh, sorry, go ahead, Courtney. Go ahead.
I remember for Thanksgiving and other holiday events, my mom, when we were first dating, she would find a bunch of notebooks and put them out and lay them out on the table and make sure that everyone could communicate with Zach. The aunts, uncles, cousins, she was ready.
Wow. That's amazing. Yeah. Did people actually use it though? Did it work out?
Right back and forth with Zach. Yeah, it was really sweet.
Wow, that is so great. So, Courtney, so your family had not learned ASL yet, but Zach, you said you still felt welcome. What did that look like in practicality? How did they show you, that you were welcome in their circle?
I mean, I would just come up to them and say, hey, and just kind of mention, hey, my name is... I say, hey, do you want to grab some food? And then we would spend some time writing back and forth, or we would find a way to communicate via text or writing. But he always... I'd put captions on the TV and made sure that I could keep up with the conversations. Or if we're going to a place where they had an interpreter, he would always make sure that everything worked out and everything could be worked out so there would be an interpreter arranged and everything.
I remember there was one time, I can't remember if we were already married or if we were just dating, but we went to the movies with my family.
Oh, yeah.
And the caption device wasn't working.
I felt horrible. I felt like it was my fault. I was like, the caption's not working. That mean, what could I do? But the family's like, no, it's fine. We'll just leave and go to another movie theater. No worries. That kind of blew my mind that the family was so willing to just get up and go to a different movie theater. And not oh, too bad, so sad, we'll watch the movie without captioning. So they're like, nope, let's just leave. So it was really interesting.
Wow. Yeah, I remember one time, I think it was, I was already married. But the a caption machine that you have to have in the movie theaters is so awkward, right? You have to stick it in the cup holder. And honestly, my first time using it, I told my husband that I didn't want to because it was embarrassing. I didn't want people to see. I just didn't want to. And I went to, I don't know what that caption device is even called. But my husband came back proudly holding his own caption device. And he's like, I got it for you, so you didn't have to walk through it. And I was just so thankful because I felt too awkward to go up and ask for it. And it does annoy me some because it is awkward to set up and figure out how to get it in the right position and all that stuff. But he showed a lot of care for me that way. And so, Zach, I just feel like that was what was shown to you with her family, just trying to show you love in a way that they could. Yeah. And I just think it's so great. It really, really is. So now, you guys are married, right? The dating phase-ish is all over.
6
How long have you been married?
Soon.
Almost 6. Wow. Well, congratulations, you guys. That's awesome.
Yeah, time flies.
So everybody goes by fast,
it went
right?
by really quickly.
Real fast. So now you guys you've been married 6 years. And what is something that you guys continue to, to work on even now?
I think 2-3 years ago, one of the roadblocks we actually really hit, I'd say major roadblocks. We faced really just complete exhaustion from one another, and we decided to really focus on ourselves and not really each other. I wasn't really meeting her needs, and she wasn't really meeting my needs. It felt like there was a drift from one another, and it was not good. It was rough.
We read a book called His Needs, Her Needs, and it talks about like the concept of love bankruptcy. It's important to make deposits, and sometimes we take withdrawals, but it's very important to continue to make those deposits. And then when we withdraw a little bit, it doesn't impact us as much. But we realized that we were love bankrupt. We were withdrawing so much that we had a negative balance, so to say. It was just so overwhelming and exhausting.
And I think it was really important for us at that time to figure out what each other's love languages were, what my love languages were, what hers were, so we could actually access each other's love languages essentially and make deposits in each other's accounts with each other's love languages. And we've been working on that for the last 2 to 3 years.
A lot. It really changed our lives.
It's really just amazing to see how God's been working through all of that.
I think it's interesting because in general we think, okay, I have to take care of myself. If I don't take care of myself first, then who's going to take care of me? So who's going to meet my needs? So if I give 100% focused on Zach's needs, his needs, and then he's 100% focused on my needs, then all of our needs will be met. Instead of thinking that I need to focus on myself 50% and him 50%, we both need to give to each other 100%. So sometimes we still struggle with that. Yes, we get tired, and sometimes we have to communicate that we're tired, or if we're feeling sensitive. So like sometimes for me, I get exhausted with the baby all day. So I'll let him know I'm sensitive today, so please add a little more compassion to your communication with me. And he's fine with it. But if I don't communicate that, then I get mad and start blaming him. And that's the key, is communication. And we need to learn to communicate better and be honest. And that's hard. And we have to be honest when we make our mistakes. And it can be tough.
Yeah. Also, when our daughter was born, our marriage drastically changed. So we had to focus on the baby for quite some time. And so we had to be very careful with one another. And with the time that we have with one another, and set committed time together, so it's just us. So a certain night every single week, something we could do fun, maybe play a board game, or just chat, or have types of conversation. And so that's something that we're still working on, but we had to be intentional.
Each couple enjoys different things. When I first met him, I was not great with having conversations. I preferred watching TV, watching movies, and he was a talker. So we were kind of so opposite of the stereotypical couple. The man watches TV and the woman talks, but we were opposite. But now we've kind of meshed well together. I enjoy having conversation, and we go out and walk, and we'll chat and have conversation. And I really enjoy that. It's really good quality time for us.
That's so fun. You know, I just love it, you guys. Your honesty and openness is just astounding. I so appreciate it. And honestly, just for me and my husband, communication is still, a thing. We've been married 10 years and we have to practice communication still. Sometimes I forget that I need to add grace to our conversations, or, we have to remember we have two very energetic boys, and I'm often so tired, and it's just a reality. But last question for you guys, for everyone watching today that's in the process of dating and looking at pursuing marriage, what would you guys suggest for them?
No, I'm just kidding. I think it's important to remember, firstly, that no relationship, no person is perfect. Sometimes people have doubts on if this person is the right one. Maybe they are. But it's important to know that there will be a few issues, even with the right one. So you have to learn to make the decision to commit and agree if you want to live your life together. Are you going to accept that person if they never change? Those issues, those things, if they never change, can you still live with them for the rest of your life? And I, understand that some things are deal breakers. You have to think maybe that's something maybe a little annoying, but you could live with it. I think another thing is that couples who are older and wiser and willing to get involved and help with your relationship and give you godly counsel, that's really important too. That really helped our relationship.
Yeah.
I know I just answered, but do you have anything you want to add?
I think that if you make mistakes in relationships, it's okay. Don't obsess about it. You have to move on and discuss these things.
Don't just give up.
Work together. Try to work these things out. I think one thing is really imperative is really to have a type of best friendship or relationship with another guy, and have and same with the wives, to have another girl and have full transparency in your lives, where that best friend could have that could come alongside you for your spiritual journey, your mental journey, just different things, and they can address things differently. Couples can improve and can grow and encourage that type of healthy relationship.
That's a good point.
Yeah, that's good. I just love how you guys say, that list we talked about. Courtney, you said that at the top of the list is pursuing Jesus, and Zach, you did as well. And it's just that so good to be reminded that God is good and He can be trusted. If your relationship is not if it feels like it's not working out, or if you are trying to figure out how to resolve this conflict, whatever is going on, it has to be done together. But at the end of the day, you have to trust God with that. Right.
I think the thing that's always helped me is that, I forgot what I was going to say. I forgot. I don't remember. Oh, well.
It's fine. But I guess, that's all the questions I had for you guys today. Thank you so much for your time. And I just love your honesty that you guys have in your relationships and with us today on how your dating process was, and just sharing your story. And Courtney, just learning how your family learned ASL for Zach, and how Zach was willing to meet these different people who didn't know sign language at the beginning, And even you, Courtney, were a beginning signer at that time when you started dating. It's just amazing to see how everything worked out. So thank you both so much. For all of you guys watching at home and all of our viewers, if you have any questions, if you are curious more about dating well and what that looks like, or if you have any questions for Zach or Courtney or myself, please reach out to us. We would love to have a conversation with you, and you can also do that on Instagram.
Yeah, it's Our Signed World. I'll spell it OurSignedWorld.
Okay, great. So make sure to give them a follow on Instagram. It's an awesome account.
Yeah, it's the same
YouTube
as the Instagram
channel as well. It's a great channel. Same name, right? Yes, same name. All right. Well, hopefully, we plan to see you guys in 2 weeks. Thank you all for watching today.
Bye.
We'll see you.